Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about a very polarizing game that just launched on Steam, and that's Big Rigs Over the Road Racing. We've talked about this one in the past in terms of a masterpiece of games. This is probably not where it's at. However, it's got a mostly positive review score. Now, taking a look at the reviews, and I'm not surprised as to why this game has a mostly positive review score. It seems the positive reviews are kind of making fun of the game. Now, since launch, this game has been patched a number of times, which I guess is good that the developer or whoever owns the game now is paying attention. But on the other hand, it makes me wonder if this game was ever even tested before it was put on the Steam store. I mean, one of the patches here adds an FPS cap. Without an FPS cap, I think this game would be using something like 100% of the GPU. The uncapped FPS is kind of like the uncapped speed when you're reversing the trucks. Based on everything I'm seeing, I'm pretty sure that this is going to turn into a meme game moving forward. It's not priced very high, and I think this one may be the next Bad Rats. Next up here, if you mod games and you're familiar with Nexus mods, the Nexus mods app just got a pretty big update. Now, at the time of filming, version 0.9.2 is the latest update. It's a bug fix update to the big update here, which is version 0.9.1. And this update has a number of UI improvements. There's some technical changes, bug fixes, and even more. Some of the nice quality of life improvements include these changes here. Files and mods from a Nexus mods collection are now read-only to prevent users from accidentally breaking the collection by editing them. And mods that are required as part of a Nexus mods collection can now only be enabled or disabled using the collection toggle. In progress collection installs will now appear in the left menu, and they reorganize the library here to separate mods and collections into tabs. Moving on, and we're talking about Nintendo Switch emulation with Eden, which is an up-and-coming Nintendo Switch emulator with an emphasis on up-and-coming. We talked about Eden in the past when the project was initially announced. The main person behind Eden is one of the main people who were involved with Citron, and it seems as if an early alpha version of Eden has been leaked. So Camille, the main person behind Eden, says to basically avoid this version. It's an early alpha version based on a couple of weeks of development. It's not representative of their final product, and it's been modified. There's no way of telling what exactly has been modified. They're guessing here with Antutu stuff. But at the same time, maybe there's been malware inserted into it. Who knows here? They are saying just avoid it and wait for the official Eden release. And speaking about modifications to things, next up we're talking about Azahar Plus, which is a fork of Azahar. We've talked about Azahar Plus in previous videos. It's highly controversial, and the whole purpose of this is to restore stuff that Azahar took away. So specifically for Azahar Plus, they say it's a fork of Azahar 3DS emulator that restores some features. Support of 3DS files. If a file works with an earlier Citra fork, it works with Azahar Plus. And the ability to download system files from official servers. No need for an actual 3DS. Now, in a previous video, I said that Azahar and Azahar Plus are probably not going to play well together, and it turns out that is true. Pablo MK7, one of the main people behind Azahar, has reached out to Azahar Plus and asked them to change a few things. There's quite a bit of information here, and if you are curious about this one and wanted to read up on it and learn more about it, like everything we talk about, links are in the description below right at the bottom. I don't hide my sources. So anyways, Pablo MK7 says, we would like you to consider the following in order to distance your project from the official Azahar emulator, so that our goal of staying as far from piracy as possible can prevail. Stop using the Azahar name and logo. This is causing confusion to new users, thinking that the Azahar team is related to Azahar Plus. And stop linking to our social media places, mainly our Discord server. This again is causing confusion on who is the author of this fork. I would actually agree with both of these things. Truth be told, there's even more stuff here, like some possible coding issues and even more. I would say at the very least, just changing the name and logo is extremely reasonable. I would say that's a very reasonable ask, especially not linking to their own Discord servers. I don't know here. Maybe I'm out of touch on this one. Maybe I'm out in left field, but I would just say that this is completely reasonable to not confuse the two projects. I mean, both projects are open source, and it's pretty easy just to change a name and logo without really harming anything. However, the person behind Azahar Plus has a bit of a different opinion, so they do seem to be complying with some of the requests, for example, changing the logo here and possibly some attributions. However, they say I won't change the name. Pablo MK7 responds to that. With this here, it saddens me that you are not willing to collaborate on the protection of 3DS emulation. In that case, I request the immediate removal of the infringing binaries that you are currently distributing in the releases page. Binaries shall only be distributed again until the issues explained in the opening message are properly addressed. But wait, there's more. Azahar Plus digs their heels in and responds with this. Let's be clear, I will not remove the binaries. Pablo MK7 says, are you aware that what you're doing is not only disrespectful, but illegal under copyright law and could end up with a DMCA being sent to you? Azahar Plus says, I don't appreciate this kind of scare tactics. And then Pablo MK7 says, it's not scare tactics. We don't appreciate your username either. Yes, please remove the infringing binaries. And someone else weighs in and says, this isn't scare tactics. Pablo MK7 was being very reasonable. But I'm very curious to hear what you have to say. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. I would say that Azahar Plus should just change their name here and just avoid all issues. I think it's as simple as that. Just change the frickin' name. It's not even a big deal overall. I mean, Azahar exists. Azahar Plus is not by the team of Azahar. It is confusing, and it doesn't make sense to dig your heels in and not change the name of your own project that is based on another project. They could call it literally anything. They could call it Poo Poo Pee Pee Plus. Like, it doesn't matter. Just call it something different. Now, I don't know if you remember this one, but Citra MMJ kind of fell into a very similar situation where there was some contention between Citra and Citra MMJ. It's a little bit different, though, because I believe the person behind Citra MMJ was on the original Citra team. I could be wrong with that one. I don't think so, though. And Citra MMJ was a performance-based fork of Citra. It was not maintained by the official Citra team, but it was often mistaken for being released by the official Citra team. Some people thought it was an experimental version of Citra. Some people thought it was just a different flavor altogether. Meanwhile, it was a different emulator altogether. It was based on Citra, but it was being continued on and maintained by someone completely separate. And it shouldn't have been called Citra MMJ. It should have been called something completely different. And that did frustrate the Citra team, or at least some people on the Citra team, and I can completely understand that problem. Another example is RPCS3 Android, which I'm not necessarily sure if the RPCS3 team was upset about it or not, but I do know on their Discord that a lot of people were flooding it asking about Android stuff. Meanwhile, the RPCS3 development team was not behind RPCS3 Android, and they didn't support it. And I'm guessing part of the rename was because of the confusion there and trying to separate the two projects. I could be wrong about that one, though. Next up, we're talking about Nintendo and the man, the myth, the legend, Reggie, who I still wish was at Nintendo. Anyways, it seems that Reggie has been paying attention to some of the online feedback about the price of Nintendo's Welcome Tour being set at $10, or $9.99 if you wanted to be specific. He weighs in on a previous video here talking about the pack-in game of Wii Sports and the effect it had on the overall sales of the Wii. So this clip is from an IGN interview with Reggie. It's up on YouTube. You can check it out yourself. And after seeing the clip is from a couple of years ago, by the way. After seeing the clip, it seems that Reggie is probably more on side with the Welcome Tour being a pack-in game as opposed to costing $10. So Reggie here says that Miyamoto initially pushed back on the Wii Sports pack-in with the Wii quite a bit, and I guess that is an understatement to say he pushed back. But overall, that was a big win for Reggie, and I would say a huge win for the Nintendo Wii and the success of it. But let me know your thoughts on a couple of things here. First and foremost, with Reggie, do you miss him at Nintendo? And secondly, do you think that the Welcome Tour should be a pack-in game for the Switch too? I'm assuming most people are going to say yes to that one. And continuing to talk about Nintendo and the Switch too, and some positive news. There's been a whole lot of negativity online surrounding the Switch 2, but here is a ray of sunshine, I guess. Nintendo has confirmed no download codes are needed for physical Switch 2 Edition games. It was originally stated that Switch 2 Enhanced games would just be the original Switch game with a DLC code to download the enhanced portion of it. And that is no longer the case. Nintendo is saying the physical versions of Nintendo Switch 2 Edition games will include the original Nintendo Switch 2 game and its upgrade pack, all on the same game card. They are exclusively Nintendo Switch 2 game cards with no download code. Now, I've seen some people take that message and get very excited about it, thinking that Switch 2 games are going to be A-OK, they're going to be amazing because you can just buy the game from the store and everything is on that cartridge. However, and this is a real big however, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, at least not from my perspective. And that's all because of this last sentence. Alternatively, some publishers may release Nintendo Switch 2 Edition games as download codes in physical packaging with no game card. Why? But I don't know here. Let me know your thoughts about this one. If I were going into a store to buy a physical game and bought the game and opened it up and it was just a DLC code and that's it, I would be pretty upset about it. I guess fortunately if you're buying a Nintendo published game, you can be comfortable knowing that the whole game and enhanced version is on that card. But for everything else, it seems it's going to be a toss-up. But switching from Nintendo to PlayStation, and next up we're talking about the PlayStation Portal. And the PlayStation Portal has received even more updates. The big thing here is with user interface enhancements for cloud gaming. So if you've got a PlayStation Portal and you use the cloud gaming aspect of it, you might be excited about these changes. It is still in beta here, but it does seem it's getting better. You can now sort on the catalog screen. You can now capture gameplay. The create button on the PS Portal is now enabled. When the streaming server is full, you can now queue and wait until it's ready. There's a new pause feature, a notification of inactivity, and even more stuff. On top of that, if you don't have a PlayStation Portal, or even if you do, as long as you've got PlayStation Plus Premium or Extra, there's some new premium games that are available. One of those being Hogwarts Legacy, and I think some people will be very excited about that. And speaking about handhelds, next up we're talking about the Steam Deck. And someone spotted a Steam Deck over on eBay, specifically a Steam Deck engineering prototype that was just sold for $3,000, or $2,999.99 if you wanted to be specific. Yes, the Steam Deck engineering prototype is ugly, but I don't know here. Maybe calling this ugly is a hot take. I would just say I am very glad that the final design doesn't really look like this. I know it's an engineering sample and these things are not meant to be the prettiest things out there. But overall, let me know your thoughts. Would you be interested in paying $3,000 or I guess $2,000 as this person is reporting for an engineering sample? There are only a few of them in existence. And if you're a fan of the Steam Deck, if you're a fan of niche and pretty neat items, would you buy an engineering sample for $2,000? But moving on from Nintendo to PlayStation to Steam and now Xbox. And next up here, we're talking about the Xbox Game Showcase, which has just been revealed is going to take place on June 8th. Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of details right now as to what's going to be showcased during the Xbox Game Showcase. I'm assuming there's going to be a whole lot of leaks moving forward as time goes on here, but afterwards there's going to be the Outer Worlds 2 Direct. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.